timing. Timing will be important. Timing tests will need to be performed. The confinement circuit needs to be triggered slightly ahead of the ignition circuit. The confinement circuit field over the core needs to exist just prior to the formation of the plasma at the center of the core. So the lasers heat the fusion fuel pellet, instantly transforming it into a very hot plasma. At first, the energy from the lasers will push the plasma inwards. The hot plasma is imploding. Then, as fusion reactions release massive amounts of energy, the plasma will rebound and explode outwards. The timing here will be important. The confinement circuit is turned on first for a reason. The spherical electromagnetic field over the core must pre-exist just before the hot plasma explodes outwards. As the hot plasma tries to expand, it will be confined by the strong spherical field over the core. So, the powerful spherical confinement field will be trying to implode and crush the hot plasma, just as the plasma is trying to expand outward from fusion energy. The field should extend burn times significantly. The new burn times would be measured. Will they be 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times longer? I don't know. In the field of fusion energy research, any burn time that is statistically longer would be impossible to ignore. It would both help to prove the physics and would provide significant proof of concept for my fusion power plant designs. Also, significant amounts of new electricity should be generated in the confinement circuit via the MHD effect. Because the goal of these power plant designs is to produce electricity, nothing could provide more proof of concept. Simple. Obvious. If I'm right, I am right. If I'm wrong, I am wrong. If I'm right at this point, the worthiness of my engineering designs would be definitively proven. This two-system experiment would be the first proof of concept device. Now, at this time, I have a request for you. If it's not on already, I ask you to turn on your BS meter. What do you think so far? Does this sound good? Do I sound like I'm trying to dazzle you with BS or scam you in some way? Does it sound like I know what I'm talking about? Does it sound like I should be given a chance? Does this sound like something I can finish all on my own without help, without funding? I've been thinking about fusion for about 36 years now. I have solved the mystery of time. I have developed a grand unification theory. I have spent a very large amount of time and money to earn my patents. I can demonstrate spherical waves exist, hemispheric coils work, and a magnetic flow can be induced to flow around the confinement circuit using hemispheric coils. Other researchers have already proven the MHD effect works in other geometries, like Sandia's Z-pinch cylindrical geometry. However, nobody has tested the MHD effect in this spherical geometry. MHD is nothing new. In fact, it has been old and boring for a long time. This will be the first exciting way that magnetohydrodynamics will be put to use. My situation is frustrating. If this is not tested, then this is literally unfair to every United States citizen. If this is all it takes to benefit from fusion energy, it would simply be a crime to not test it. In my opinion, politicians at both the state and the federal levels should consider this. This film is a proposal for a specific plan for developing fusion energy. It is only a 3-year plan. At the heart of this plan is building a new independent fusion energy laboratory. This plan describes a simple, straightforward series of steps that, at this time, looks like it will quickly and directly lead to fusion energy. As it now stands, the new physics explained in this film, combined with the experimental proof shown in this film, and the plan described in this film, is worthy of significant government funding. In my opinion, I have already developed this concept to the stage of development where it deserves multi-million-dollar government funding. Obviously, I can't go further on my own. Obviously, I need funding. If the DOE will not fund me, then I need help from politicians to circumvent them. Because the regulations are not ready, I need politicians to crack the whip. If the politicians in the United States will not help me, then that could be really sad. Somebody is going to do this in some other country. It is going to work. Then massive amounts of existing wealth will flow out of the United States to fund foreign energy companies. Then most of the new wealth created will be made elsewhere. Eventually, the United States may need to import most of its electricity from Canada and Mexico. Then our electricity situation will be just like our oil situation, where significant wealth is constantly flowing out of the country. So, the first major step is demonstrating extended burn times. Next, in the 12 to 24 month time frame, my lab would build a small demonstration power plant. It would have all three major systems. It will have a much more powerful confinement circuit. The third system will be the transfer circuit, which includes a superconducting energy storage ring, an SES ring. It should be able to demonstrate much longer fusion burn times. The engineering design issues for this experiment would center around making robust individual parts and robust electrical circuits. A much larger, much more powerful, much more robust impulse circuit would create a much stronger wave in the confinement circuit. There is an area of research called high magnetic field research. This is a mature area of research that already has extensive knowledge. I could hire experts from this field to design my impulse circuit. Or there are at least a half dozen specialized companies around the world that make impulse circuits similar to what I need. Their impulse circuits are used to create artificial bolts of lightning for testing transformers and other critical equipment that might be damaged from lightning. There are high voltage laboratories that utilize these systems, so they're common. I could purchase one of these circuits off the shelf, yet it will need customization and it will be expensive. In this point in the plan, the lab would deal with a few difficult but straightforward electrical engineering issues. Surely, my scientists and engineers will debate and test a variety of issues. How big should the capacitor banks be? What is the best way to switch the energy out of the capacitor banks? How do we control the timing? For each issue, the initial goal will be to create just one or two good solutions. At this point, no optimization will be done. Long duration fusion burns should enable this demo power plant to produce as much energy as it uses, a significant milestone that fusion researchers call break-even. The next step in the 24 to 36 month time frame would be integrating some older technologies with some new engineering and then proving the overall engineering of the system. In essence, in this next step, my lab would build 3 small working fusion power plants. They would not be full-size power plants, yet they must integrate most of the technology of the full-size plants. While they would be small, they would demonstrate how a full-size power plant would work. These 3 power plants would be called demo plants. The most important role for these three power plants is to demonstrate that the various parts of engineering will work well together, and that each power plant can safely produce more energy than it consumes. One goal would be to progressively produce a higher output of electricity with each variation. I would start with demo 1, then demo 2, and then demo 5. Each should produce more energy than they consume. Each variation would use more sophisticated equipment and controls. A key issue is, how do these power plants get the newly generated electricity to the electric grid? In order to clarify this issue, let me summarize some specific steps. Step 1. When the fusion fuel gets hot enough, it will explode inside the core with a burst of fusion energy. These pulses will repeat over and over again. Each burst of fusion energy will immediately create powerful bursts of new electricity. This new electricity is induced via the MHD effect. With injections of fuel, these pulses should continue for long periods of time. These bursts of new electricity are like bolts of lightning. This new electricity is induced in the confinement field over the core. However, this new electricity is part of the longer wave that flows around the entire track. These coils allow electricity to flow into and out of the confinement circuit. Using the hemispheric coils positioned at locations around the confinement circuit, these powerful bursts of new electricity will be directed away from the confinement circuit. Compare these fusion power plant designs to internal combustion engines. Lasers are used instead of spark plugs. Fusion fuel is used instead of gasoline or diesel. The hot plasma explodes outward in a spherical geometry instead of a hot gas exploding in a cylinder. The hot plasma pushes against a spherical electromagnetic confinement field instead of a hot gas pushing against a cylinder wall and a cylinder head. Electrical energy is made instead of mechanical energy. Energy is transferred with coils and wires instead of with a crankshaft and a transmission system. Again, bursts of electricity will be produced. Each burst can be as powerful as a small lightning bolt. Each fusion power plant design will have a characteristic number of bursts per second.